in certain environments and, and purposely puts you somewhere at the right time so that you can know if I was being trolled or not. But anyways, I forgot where I was at and what I was saying. Help me, Holy Spirit. Oh yeah, okay. In order to encounter God fully, you have to forgive. And I think that that was something that I really received through a sermon yesterday. And God is so good and intentional that He purposely aligns you in certain environments and, and purposely puts you somewhere at the right time so that you can receive a message. And that's just another way how He communicates with us. But anyway, so yeah, forgiveness is just it's key. It's a part of what we have to do as believers, as followers. That's the only way you can love. A part of love is forgiveness. And I wish I had my sermon notes, but I left it in my friend's car. But I'm gonna get back on later on to like have more of an in-depth conversation about love because I can literally talk about it all day. After receiving God's love for myself, it's just I've never encountered something so strong, so pure, so genuine that I like literally crave for that love. And it's just if God's not in, if the French, if because being equally yoked with God is like a friendship. So if that friendship with God or Jesus is not centered in my life, I don't want to be in that environment. I don't want to be rich and not have God. I don't want to have this and not have God. I don't. It's just I don't want it if God's not in the center, and I think that's like where I've been in like lately. And a part of like having a friendship with God is to love like Christ. Because when you're in a space where you're equally yoked, God is going to transform your mind. He's going to restore you. He's going to give you new desires. And a part of those desires are love. A part of those desires are forgiveness. And it's really big because, like I was saying, us as believers will say that we're believers, but when it comes to forgiveness, everyone doesn't want to listen. And I don't understand that because that is essential. In order to have a relationship with Christ, we have to forgive. It literally says in the Bible. How can God forgive us if we can't even forgive our mom who made us upset a couple years ago because she said something we didn't want to hear? How can we be in relationship with Christ because how can we be in a relationship with Christ if we have a problem with our ex-boyfriend who cheated on us 5 years ago and we keep on bringing it up and keep on bringing it up? Whenever we see this man, we get the ick. We want to cuss him out. It just doesn't work like that. We have to forgive, and it's so hard. And I never said it was going to be easy, but it is essential to forgive in order to grow in your relationship with Christ. And forgiveness is only the start. You have to forgive yourself as well. You have to take accountability for what you've done and you have to move on. And I feel like we need to really talk about that more, forgiveness and moving. So I just wanted to get on here and say, do not wish death on your enemy. A lot of the times we grow a hatred in our heart for our enemy, for someone who did us wrong. Like I said, for you could have got raped, you could have got molested, you could have got taken advantage of, and you learn to hate this person. But God says, forgive them, for they do not know. They don't know. They have not encountered him. Have you have encountered him? They're lost. We need to pray for these people. Don't wish death on your enemy. Don't. We need to start praying that they are saved, that they find God, that they get help, that they are healed. And that's something that people do not want to talk about in this world. Everybody wants to hate. Everybody wants to come against the next person. Everybody wants to be selfish and just think about what someone else done to me and how I'm hurting and how they did this and how they did this. But we need to stop doing that. And we need to start taking authority that God gives us and pray. Start praying for people. Start spreading the gospel to these people. Take authority in these situations. And it's just so important and essential because the devil wants us to be segregated. He wants us to be against each other. He wants us to fight. But our God says, you guys are my children. You guys are called to be a community with each other. You guys are family. Family does not. What did the pastor say? I think he said, your family wants the best for you, but your enemy is always going to believe the worst of you. Oh no, your family is always going to believe the best of you, and your enemy is always going to believe the worst of you. So, to get more into what I wanted to say, I started off with saying to love your enemies because that is very important, but also to love your family, love your church. And not everyone goes to church, but I'm on here to tell you guys that I strongly agree that you guys get positioned to where you really fast and pray on a church in a community that God is calling you to, because God also calls us as believers to fellowship. Our number one priority is to have relationship with Christ, a one-on-one independent relationship, but we're also called to have a community. We're also called to get into our scripture. We're also called to pray. But community is key. Fellowship is key. Communion amongst one another is key. So get in position to where God is calling you towards a church. And when you find this community, don't be unintentional with this church. God says to be intentional with this new community, with this new church, because he's going to do some things for you in this church and do some things in other people in this church, and you guys are going to be have a community amongst each other. I think something also that the pastor was saying was that a lot of people will go to church and just check it off their list, like, okay, I went to church on Sunday, that's it, I'm going home. And we need to stop doing that as believers, because we're called to fellowship, we're called to love one another. And I don't know what story was in the Bible, but like I said, I'm going to get back on here later on and we're going to get more deep into it. But the disciples would do communion with each other, they would eat with each other, they would laugh, talk about Jesus, do Bible study. They would literally have, like, they had a community amongst each other. Why is it nowadays everybody goes to church? Not everybody, but most people go to church, and then after that it's just over, and then they get back home and they go back into their ways. We need to stop doing that. We need to go to church, we need to talk, we need to connect, we need to communicate, and within the week we need to connect, like, whether it's go to somebody's house for dinner, whether it's let's all do a Bible study together, whether it's let's go feed the homeless together, let's do this, it could be let's go outside and look at the sky together. It literally can be just the bare minimum. But what I'm saying is we need to start coming together as a church, as a family, as God calls us to be, and start to build that fellowship, build that community, and just love one another. And a part of loving is getting to know each other, being understanding of one another. A part of that is just making time for one another. Love is so, it's just so many different layers, like an onion, and you have to really peel back all the layers to really understand what it is. But once you receive that love, God's love, it is just, it's eternal. It's just so good. But you have to get to a space where you can receive that love so that you can love others. So yeah, I encourage you guys to get into some type of community if you have not found a community for yourself yet. And once you're in that church or whatnot, start to build a loving relationship with your brothers and sisters in your church, and start to fellowship with each other, do communion with each other. It is so important. And I will literally not, I can't stress less about this because it's so important. People think, oh, I did the work. I went to church. I read my Bible. Oh, I helped a couple people out. I gave someone $1 on the street because they said they needed $1. But it's so much more than that. It is so much more. And I think it's 1 Corinthians 13, verse 1. Dang it. I need to get better at my verses because I'm literally like all over the place. But look it up. There's a verse in the Bible in 1 Corinthians. I think it's either 13 or 14, but it states specifically, you've done everything, like you've done all the works, but have not loved. You don't have that the love of Christ in you. So therefore all your works that you've done profit you nothing, because you have not loved in your heart. And that is big, because I think the most terrifying thing in my heart is to get to a point where Jesus comes back and we're all bowing down before him, and he just walks up to me and say, and I'm like, God, yeah, I went to church. I helped a couple people out. I was in this organization helping this person out and that person and that, da, da, da. And Jesus just looks at me and say, I never knew you. Like, depart from me. I feel like that is the most terrifying thought that in my mind that would ever happen. So it's like, it's so important for us not to let it be too late, because we have a chance. God is forgiving us daily. We have a chance to make it right with him, but we have free will at the end of the day. So it's up to us to make the step to really receive him fully. But it starts with us surrendering to our fleshly ways. It's time for us to stop trying to take control and allow God to lead our lives. It's time for us to fully just be equally yoked and it's I just